Good morning. Welcome to another episode of A Cup of Coffee with Bill. It is May 12th, and I'm excited to have Pat Nieser, the Executive Vice President of Corporate Partnerships and Development with the Superlative Group, on the show today to talk about continuing the discussion on sales and sellers in the pandemic, but also the really landmark deal in many ways that his group helped to negotiate and lock in between FTX and Miami-Dade County to give the home of the Miami Heat a brand new naming rights partner. So, Pat, thank you for coming on. I'm excited to dig into this and learn a little bit more about how you navigated this crazy situation that we all found ourselves in and made waves in the industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here as well, Bill.
So for people that don't know you, aren't familiar with the Superlative Group, can you just give us an introduction to yourself and what you guys do?
Absolutely. So I'm Pat Nieser, Executive Vice President, Corporate Partnerships and Development at the Superlative Group. My primary background prior to joining the Superlative Group was in front offices selling corporate partnerships. I spent a good chunk of my career with the Cincinnati Bengals doing that. And Superlative Group was founded back in 1994. Spent a lot of time focused on Major League Baseball projects, as well as that was a big time for new arenas being built in intercollegiate athletics for basketball, volleyball, things like that. So that was a big part of the business for a long time. We have a focus on both valuation and sales. So we have divisions that focus on both aspects of corporate partnerships and naming rights. And we have clients across North America. We also have clients in other parts of the world, including Ireland and the UK, and others that pop up from time to time with different engagements and opportunities. But our main focus is on corporate partnerships and naming rights. And we were excited to work on that partnership deal for FTX and Miami-Dade County and the home of the Miami Heat. And that'll be rolling out here soon after the season is finished up and they can continue to start to really change the building out and kind of reimagine what that looks like.
Thank you. So let's just jump in. Naming rights, more than probably any other partnership in sports and entertainment, I mean, we're talking sometimes years in some cases. But talk us through the process that you went through, because obviously I'm assuming this started before the pandemic, right?
Yes, it did. Yep. Yep.
So how, because you have two very interesting dynamics, and that's what kind of piqued my interest about this more, just as much as the fact that they're the first crypto-based company to be involved at that scale. But talk to me about the process, because you have one plan in place that you're going through when, pre-pandemic, we're all going about things as normal. And then suddenly you start to lose a lot of the things that you're putting into a pitch and conversation about people and the foot traffic and the benefits that you're going to find about having their name on this building. Talk us through the process and how you made that pivot to get to where you were ultimately able to get the deal signed.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think, and this was the case and has been the case for almost every project that we've been engaged on. We looked at things pre-pandemic and post-vaccine. Of course, you had to be creative in terms of where things would land in the middle there. But we were very bullish on the fact that this was temporary. No one knew how long it was going to last. It's obviously still going on, but we knew that there would be a pent-up demand for and desire to attend live events safely, right? The way that we attend live events is going to probably be changed for forever, but sports and entertainment, wasn't going to just completely go away because of the pandemic. Certainly, we've all experienced some unique intricacies during sales processes during the pandemic. Some brands have really pulled back and gotten very conservative for obvious reasons. Others have seen the opportunity to really grow their business, reach new audiences, and grab market share from any competitors that that they're up against in their industry. So, and it takes the right person in the chair on the other side to really believe in the opportunity and to be willing to commit to something on a long-term basis, and to kind of see that the way things are today are not going to continue forever. And that's the case always, but certainly during a pandemic.
So a lot of it comes down to just having that mutual trust and understanding between you, the client, and then ultimately the prospect, that there has to be a certain level of trust that the numbers are going to land somewhere, maybe a little lower than what it was at the front part of the conversation, but definitely higher than where the middle part of the conversations were probably taking place and there's nobody in the building, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and each brand is looking for different things, right? When you still have a heavy amount of television exposure, you still have a heavy amount of social media exposure, et cetera. There's still plenty of value there. And, everyone had to work through, make goods and, being creative with new pieces of inventory, that was the case before the pandemic anyway, right? We got to be creative. We got to reshape and remold the partnership opportunity for the brand, because it's different, in terms of what is needed by them. And then I also think that just building in, some flexibility into a long-term engagement is important. That, is even more important now than ever, because we don't know what is going to change. If we think about partnerships that were put together 15 years ago, social media really didn't exist at that time, and it's going to continue to evolve the way that fans and consumers take in live events and take in games and take in engaging with sports teams and the like. So having the forethought to put in some language and opportunity for flexibility in a long-term relationship is important, and certainly was important with this one.
How, going back to the idea of the shifting digital landscape, how much did that help you out when you started to see how nimble teams were being and open to exploring new digital capabilities and just trying things out? Because one of the other fascinating things is this is FTX. It's just such a it's all digital. It's a digital focus. It's cryptocurrency. It's they're really at the forefront of a lot of different things in that space. But how did the emphasis on digital and the willingness for people to try different things in that space help out the conversation and really lock it in to the direction that you ultimately went?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I mean, there was a lot of learning that went on both sides, on the property side of things and then on the brand side of things. We saw in the industry a lot of, signage placements and things like that to help with make goods and to increase exposure. And, some brands enjoyed that, and other brands said, this isn't working. Right. This isn't what we're looking to do. I think what's, was interesting with FTX and their platform was that it doesn't require people to necessarily be on site anywhere. Mm-hmm. The blockchain conversation has been going on for a very long time, but certainly is hitting its stride at this point. And they had acquired Blockfolio, and really we're putting an emphasis on growing awareness of their exchange platform so that they could continue to drive more volume in trading and exchanging. So I think that the partnership as it even stands today in 2021 is going to continue to evolve, as they learn how to use it, and they learn how to, be flexible with what type of messaging they're doing and how that's going to be done. So, on a social and digital platform.
Right. And then looking at the aspect from the county, because in my research for it, but they also, it's in the different press pieces that have gone out about the deal, and the focus of that area is on fintech and technology and really just trying to become one of the next big tech hubs in the country. What did that do in coming to make this really a perfect pairing? Because that seems like it would have alleviated some of the issues that you might have faced in getting this over the finish line when everything shut down, knowing that they're branding the marquee venue in the city, where they're going to be putting a lot of investment dollars in trying to attract other companies that could ultimately be working with FTX.
Yeah, so it's interesting. South Florida, Miami-Dade County, city of Miami, is a very international market, very high profile market. So I think that was a big, piece to the appeal for FTX, was that, this is, the gateway to Latin America. The NBA, of course, is very international in terms of its reach, and they were very interested in the demographics that come along with the fan base. The county was, very excited to explore the opportunity with FTX. The mayor of the city, who wasn't our client, but is, very, very bullish on blockchain and crypto, certainly was beneficial for us. There's a huge conference that's going to be down in Miami in that industry. So I don't think that that's going to slow down. And I think that, it's exciting to see that they, we're able to, to realize that, to be able to utilize the arena to kind of plant their flag in that community. And, Florida is going to continue to grow, as is Texas, with, more and more companies moving to those states for various reasons. So, it's not going to slow down, and I anticipate that, there's more and more growth in that area.
Interesting. So let's shift over. I want to talk about just general selling, because obviously we all had to adapt to how we went about the process when we aren't able to get into the office. We're not able to travel the way we might have used to, trying to figure out how to make this virtual space as dynamic as we might make a meeting in a conference room in a client's office. Talk to me about maybe some things that you learned, and it sounds like before we started recording, you were probably in a more fortunate situation based on people you were talking to and where you're located, that you were able to get out to more meetings than some other folks might have been, which is fantastic. But what are some things that you're taking away from selling during the pandemic that you didn't do pre-COVID, that really helped you out, made you a sharper professional that you think you'll probably carry on throughout the rest of your career?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, yes, we were fortunate. We, as a firm, were willing to, and there were others on the other end that were willing to meet in person. I think that there's no replacement for that. Video and Teams and Zoom and the other platforms are very beneficial, so that you can have that face-to-face interaction. Earlier in the conversation, right? As opposed to maybe the first touch point is a phone call. Now it's a virtual meeting like this. But the need for the in-person to be able to fully read the person's body language and to really hear them, I don't think that's ever going to go away. But we will continue to use this platform earlier in the process, maybe as opposed to a phone call. But we'll always want to get back to the in-persons. It's necessary. site visits are important, getting, boots on the ground to see a venue or an event or an opportunity if they're going to make such a large investment. It also helps with ideation and creativity on both sides. But, I think that, we'll see that, there's, more connectivity, that, international meetings and, cross-country meetings will be a little bit easier, at least from the get-go, on virtual platforms like this. But I think, in terms of the process, we all had to get a little more creative. We all had to listen a little better. So not anything new, but just good reminders to, get back to, the basics of what, you always were supposed to be doing, and reemphasizing that. And I think, being a little more sensitive, a little more, human in terms of, understanding where brands are and individuals are in terms of, what they're dealing with, and, people who have been working remotely, we're also playing, full-time teacher and parent, all while trying to balance, a career. So, being understanding and being flexible and allowing people to move things around as necessary has been important. But, I think being able to collaborate with your colleagues in person is important as well. I think that, we started to get people, we've seen it, in all industries that are just bogged down, back-to-back Zoom meetings. They don't even have a break in between because there isn't that, I need to get, across town for a meeting or across campus or whatever it might be. So I hope that we can build in a little more time in between when people can get together and collaborate or overhear something, at the water cooler or whatnot.
Yeah, there are a lot of great tools that have been out there, but really came to the forefront as far as collaboration software. But I'm in full agreement with you. We were talking about the benefits of being in the office and being able to pick up on certain things that you might overhear from a colleague that might help a project you're working on, or you might have input for them. It's hard to really replace that. But going back to what you mentioned about the importance of the in-person meeting, how do you think the virtual space sharpened your skills on picking up on body language and probably in particular facial cues? Because in another episode that I had, we got to talking about how, noticing where a person's looking while they're on the screen. If they're looking down, are they looking off to their side? Is there something going on in the background? Maybe we're not always focusing as much on the expression or something that might be there that we previously weren't picking up because we're looking if they're slouching, are they leaning back, forward? Do you think it's sharpened your skills at all and you're able to pick up on some more cues that might have been a little more subtle previously, but now you're able to go into the conference room and that's more of a questioning look than I would have thought before. Let's dig in on that and go into that topic that they might be having some thoughts on.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting in this environment, there's some positives and some negatives to it, right?
Right.
Positives, you can see a little bit more into someone's personal life because if they don't have a background up or something like that, you can see, what's happening with their family in the background or, something unique about their home or something like that. But I think at the beginning of the pandemic and a lot of, folks were getting used to utilizing these platforms. They were very focused, like you would be if you were in the conference room or in their office. Maybe, occasionally somebody would be kind of screwing around on their phone, but, it didn't seem like that was the case, on the front end with Zoom and Teams and things like that. But then you started to kind of see a little bit of, you can tell if somebody's looking off to the side. They don't have, the full screen mode up. They're maybe looking at email or something. And then you also would see, just they're there, but their camera's off and they've got their, their temporary screen hold up. That seemed to kind of happen, like I said, with the Zoom exhaustion that people were starting to see. But again, I think the in-person is so critical, because you should be able to hold their attention better, and you can see the more of the body language as well, not just facial expressions, but also what they're doing with their hands and things like that. So, but certainly, has forced us to get better in terms of reading facial expressions, as long as somebody's focused.
All right, interesting. Well, thank you for that. And it's again, it was a big deal in our industry to see. There have been other crypto companies getting involved in some capacity, but this was the biggest one to date. So congratulations on that, and to your team on securing that. Hey everyone, so we ran out of time during Pat and I's conversation to record the Get to Know You segment, so I did want to share his responses that he sent to me after the fact. First, as far as what Pat is reading right now, he's focusing his time when he can on periodicals, U.S. news, regional U.S. news, and international news, really everything that gives him a broad scope of what's going on. So he's continuing to learn, but also keeping an eye on the horizon and what's coming up ahead that he might be able to capitalize on. And he is the first parent that said that he's reading bedtime stories the majority of time when he gets off work. Next, as far as who is he following, he's keeping his eye on the heads of some emerging companies that they're focusing on with his team in the sponsorship space to understand what they're prioritizing, the moves that they're making for their company. And that's spread across many different brands and different sectors, focusing a lot on tech, but also some of the normal verticals that we're looking at as sponsorship sellers. And then over the next 3 months, Pat's keeping his eye on, you can guess it, name, image, and likeness. How are athletes and groups of athletes at colleges navigating these new waters, especially as the regulations are set as they currently are, and how that information evolves over time? How are they going to capitalize on that? And how are the brands going to capitalize on that? And he's also continuing to keep an eye on cryptocurrencies, crypto exchanges, and how NFTs are continuing to evolve in sports entertainment and art, which I'm sure is what many of us are keeping an eye on as well. So I appreciate everyone listening to this episode. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. It was a great one from Pat, and I appreciate him coming on to share his expertise and what he learned out of the FTX deal and that process. So thank you again, and look for the next episode coming out soon. Thank you.